My clients often come to me and say, "Hey, Kassandra, I can't stop ruminating about my ex. I constantly think about them, and sometimes I feel obsessed." In this video, we're going to be talking about how to break the rumination over your ex. Before we jump into the content of how to move forward and how to stop ruminating, I just wanted to really normalize. It's actually really normal for us to think about our ex, think about our relationship, ruminate about them for a period of time after our relationship. Normally, this dissipates with time as new hobbies and individuals come into our lives. The other thing I want to discuss is when we are in a relationship, we start to create stories. We create stories about ourselves and the other person and what the relationship looked like. Now, tied to these stories comes value. Sometimes we put our value into what the relationship was, and it can be hard to let go of that narrative. So right from the get-go, we have to distinguish our value is not tied to the story of this relationship that we have created. I'm going to repeat that again. Our value is not tied to the relationship story that we've created. They are separate things. Now, when it comes to stories, we create them often. We create thousands of stories about what happened, what we did, what they did, and the stories can range day to day. One day it could be an ego story where we think, you know what, I'm too good for this person. They never deserved me. And then the next day we can ruminate about a different story where it's, why did he leave me? Why did he break up with me? Why did he cheat on me? And again, we're tying our value to the story. What we need to start doing is separating the story from our value as well as the reality of what happened in that situation. And yeah, it can make us feel good. Creating these stories, telling our friends about what a dick that person was, how awful they are, how we're so much better than them. But we have to remember that there is a payoff to repeating this story and the rumination. The more that we can share the stories, and honestly, I've been there, I've done that. I've shared the same story with a particular person about a bajillion times to a very supportive group of people. And in the moment it felt good, but it didn't stop the rumination. So if sharing is enough for you and that stops the rumination and you're able to move forward, that's great. I really commend you. It's not easy to do. But if you are finding that you're getting stuck in rumination, if it's been a long period of time, then we're going to want to take some action. The first thing is we need to talk about why we're continuing the story. There can be many reasons why. We might want to maintain a connection with that person subconsciously, where we're still tethered and tied to that person because this story is the main focus of our lives. Therefore, we don't really have to move forward, do we? Or it could be us using this distraction, using these stories to keep away the actual pain that we've experienced through this breakup or divorce or separation, whatever the case may be. So what do you think it is for you? If you have an idea, let me know in the comments. I'm interested in knowing. When I was going through my divorce, it was to keep pain at bay. It was great to regurgitate these stories. It was great to get those dopamine hits when I was telling people about how awful this person was. I was getting sympathy from people saying, yeah, you didn't deserve that. And it gave me an opportunity to not have to really reflect on how I actually felt. And most importantly, tapping into the pain to kickstart the grieving process. Sitting with that pain can be really overwhelming. And I absolutely understand why people don't want to do that. As a therapist, that is my job, to help you sit in your pain. But sometimes it can take a while to get there, and that's okay. So if coping in this way is what's getting you through your day, when you're ready, you can take a look at this video again to go through these strategies. Before we jump into the different steps that I like to teach my clients, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Kassandra Malik. I am a therapist and a life coach who specializes in divorce, breakups, and separations, helping my clients to move forward in their journey in an empowered way. So let's get to it. The first is we need to evaluate the story that we're creating around this relationship that doesn't exist anymore. Is it a story of, he was always an asshole and I don't know why I ever stayed with him and I don't get this? Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's a story of humiliation on yourself. If I would have been a better wife, if I would have been a better spouse, if I would have cooked more, this never would have happened. Which story do you often create? Again, coming back to the beginning of this. What is the payoff to this story? Is it validation for yourself? Is it not having to take responsibility for your actions within the relationship? Or maybe it's the realization that there's some work that you have to do too, but maybe we're not ready to admit that. Once we've evaluated the stories that we're creating for ourselves, we want to start looking at the objective truth of what happened. When I describe this to my clients, I want them to get really real with the actual relationship. You could even do a timeline if you want. As you reflect, if you were a bug on the wall watching your relationship, what are the legitimate truths of the relationship? Was one of you emotionally neglectful? Was there enough physical intimacy? And this is a big one. What did your body feel when you were around this person? Did you have good feelings within your body? Or maybe you were constantly walking on eggshells and you felt anxiety in your body. Only you know the truth of the situation. And once we figure out the truth of the situation and link it to the sensations that we felt around this person, we start to acknowledge that maybe this relationship ended for a reason. But most importantly, we can start connecting this to the pain that we've been avoiding because of the stories that we're creating for ourselves. So step number 1, we need to evaluate the stories that we've created, and we need to figure out what the payoff is for us to hide behind these stories. Step number 2, we need to take a really hard, truthful look at the relationship itself and whether our needs were being met or not. And then we need to allow ourselves to admit the hurt. We are hurt. Relationships ending hurt. Even if they are a toxic relationship, it is still really painful. You've had memories with this person, you've had a number of years with this person, maybe you lived with this person, maybe you've had children with this person. Regardless of the reasons why the relationship ended, it hurts. Once we're able to sit with our pain, and I know sometimes it's going to feel intolerable, that is the path to lead us to the grieving process, which is the natural process that happens once we've experienced a loss. What does the grieving process look like? It may look like taking a couple of days off. It may look like crying and releasing that pain that's been stored in our bodies. It looks like releasing all of the excuses and the blaming and the shaming of the other person and just sitting with that injured part of ourselves. There is no amount of regulation strategies like going for a walk or changing thoughts that is going to substitute sitting with the pain and the wounded part of yourself. Once we are able to do this, once we've gone through our truth process, once we've admitted the hurt that we've experienced, once we've let go of the shame and the blame and the stories, and we start our grieving process, then we can start implementing some strategies. The one thing I suggest to do is write it out. We need an outlet for all of that pain. That could look like journaling, maybe doing something very physically active to get some of that anger and sadness out. What I often recommend to my clients is to write that person a letter and just lay it on them. Whatever you want to say, all of the pain, all of the hurt, all of the thoughts, all of that future planning that's gone down the drain. You can drop F-bombs, you can do whatever you need to in this letter. Once you have that emotional release, you can do what you please with the letter. You can tear it up, you can burn it, you can bury it. But what you're giving yourself, that part of yourself that's so hurt, is an outlet to release the pain. If you are able to, and again, this varies for different circumstances and different people, different dynamics, different things, to actually have a sit-down conversation with the person, to objectively tell them the truth of the relationship and the impact that it's had on you. You could do that, but sometimes circumstances don't allow for that, or it's an unsafe situation to do that in. So that is upon your own discretion. The next phase of this is rewriting your story. We're good at creating stories, like we've talked about. So what is the story that you want to have now? And this is a part of the moving forward process. Is it a story of still being stuck and ruminating about your ex? Or is it a story about growth, resilience, and moving forward? It's your choice on how you want to do this. Now, my clients often ask me, what if I start seeing someone or dating them again, and then what happens? Like, what if some of these triggers come back? Well, because you've done the work to heal that wounded part of yourself, you can make some different decisions and choose a different path. When you feel that feeling in your body, that feels like fear or anxiety from someone new that you're seeing, those familiar feelings from your past relationship, you can make some choices around how you want to handle that. Because again, your value isn't tied into whoever you're seeing. Your value is tied into who you inherently are. If those feelings arise, if you feel that in your body, if it feels too familiar, you can step away and you can evaluate. Do I want to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't make me feel good? Do I need to set some boundaries here so history doesn't repeat? Because we often love to repeat history when it comes to relationships. And we do this until we actually find healing, which can be done within the steps of this video. You choose. You have the ability to change what's happening for you and stop the rumination. If you want some more tangible strategies on how to control your emotions and reactions, I'll link a video up here. Feel free to check it out.